Teenagers often seem innocent until one act destroys that trust. We are going to discuss 7 real cases where young killers face judges and receive sentences that steal their dreams. From silent shock to angry tears, each reaction shows the deep pain left behind. These court moments remind us that some wounds never fully heal.
Never in 23 years approximately ever not accepted a sentence.
On the evening of October 4th, 2016, 17-year-old Dante Wright and 2 friends set out to rob fellow student Jordan Klee outside Pioneer High School in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The trio spotted Klee talking on his phone in a parking lot. Wright, armed with a 9mm handgun, demanded Klee's phone and wallet. When Klee hesitated, Wright shot him in the back of the head, killing him instantly and sending his body sprawling onto the asphalt. Jordan, a senior and promising athlete, had no chance to defend himself before collapsing, where classmates found him moments later. Investigators quickly zeroed in on Wright. Cell tower pings placed his phone at the scene, and surveillance footage showed him lurking nearby. Forensic ballistics later confirmed the shell casing matched Wright's seized handgun. Detectives also discovered a torn journal page in Wright's backpack, boasting of a big payday just hours before the attack. Within 48 hours, police arrested all 3 suspects, shocking a community unprepared for such teenage violence. The brutal slaying of Jordan Klee, a student with college prospects and a loyal friend, tore through Ann Arbor's tight-knit school community. Pickets of flowers and lit candles gathered around the parking lot memorial, and classmates held vigils, mourning a life ended far too soon. The courtroom brimmed with tension when the sentencing hearing began in mid-2017 before Judge David Swartz. As Klee's family members delivered victim impact statements, Wright sat with a smirk, sometimes chuckling under his breath. Each tear-stained photo of Jordan drawn from his parents' arms seemed only to amuse Wright. Prosecutor Michael Leitch paused the proceedings, turning to Wright and scolding, "Your behavior is chilling, and if you can't show respect, we'll revisit this plea." After a brief recess, Wright's defense attorney apologized, citing his client's immaturity and a habit of masking fear with a grin. Yet Wright leaned toward his lawyer, quietly cracking a joke that drew gasps from the gallery. Former classmates, some in band uniforms, sat in shocked silence, their stares ripping through the courtroom as security gently guided Wright back into his seat. Despite the uproar, Klee's family urged the court to honor the plea and avoid a long retrial. On July 24, 2017, Wright formally pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, armed robbery, and conspiracy. Under Michigan law, he received concurrent 23 to 50-year terms, the minimum under his agreement. Judge Swartz acknowledged that without the deal, he could have imposed life without parole, but deferred to the family's wish to spare them further trauma. Wright entered Michigan's corrections system with an earliest possible release date in 2042. Prison records show him assigned to a medium security facility, reflecting both his age at offense and his disruptive courthouse demeanor. In 2018, his attorneys appealed, arguing the judge had not adequately warned him about losing the plea if he misbehaved. The Michigan Court of Appeals upheld the sentence. In a summons, citing the clear terms of the agreement. In the wake of the tragedy, Jordan Klee's parents launched Run for Jordan, an annual 5K scholarship race that draws thousands. The family also lobbied for stricter gun storage laws, sharing how Wright's easy access to a loaded firearm made this nightmare possible. Meanwhile, Wright's case remains a sobering example, a teenager's brutal choice, a plea saved only by the grace of a grieving family, and a life sentence that leaves a community forever changed.
You'll be required to pay court cost fees and assessments in the amount of $431.50.
On March 19, 2023, 14-year-old Carly Madison Gregg used her mother's .357 Magnum to kill her in their home in Brandon, Mississippi. Carly had been arguing with her mother, Ashley Smiley, over discipline and phone use. That afternoon, Ashley, who taught high school math, searched Carly's room and found vape pens she'd hidden. Tensions flared, and later that evening, Carly retrieved the gun, entered her mother's bedroom, and fired 3 shots into her face and chest. After killing Ashley, Carly texted her stepfather, Heath Smiley, asking when he'd be home. As he arrived, she opened fire again, grazing his arm. Then she calmly invited a friend over to see the body. asking if she was squeamish around dead things. Police arrested Carly about half a mile away. Investigators found home security footage showing Carly moving through the house with the gun, and the 911 call her stepfather made, sobbing and frantic, became a key piece of evidence. Prosecutors charged her as an adult with first-degree murder, attempted murder, and tampering with evidence, arguing that she planned the attack and showed cool, calculated brutality. When the jury returned its guilty verdict on September 20th, 2024, Carly Gregg burst into tears, trembling as the judge read each count. Cameras caught her sobbing, shoulders shaking, eyes red and puffy. As the court replayed the stepfather's 911 call, his voice cracking, "She shot her mother." Carly hid her face in her hands, her cries mixing with the raw grief in the gallery. During victim impact statements, Heath Smiley fought back tears, telling Carly, "You destroyed our lives. My wife was everything to us." The judge paused, allowing his words to hang in the silence. Ashley's sister then spoke, her voice quivering. "She was a beacon of love. You took that away forever." Each statement drew fresh tears from Carly, though some jurors and witnesses noted her regret seemed to arrive only once the cameras rolled. A defense psychiatrist had testified Carly was in a mental health crisis, hearing voices and battling severe depression, but the family's anguish overshadowed those claims. Rejecting a 40-year plea deal, a Rankin County jury sentenced Carly Gregg to life without parole on September 23, 2024, plus 10 years for evidence tampering. Judge Dewey Arthur called her actions evil and noted that mental health struggles did not excuse a premeditated ambush of her mother. Carly's case ignited debate in Brandon and beyond. Some argued she needed treatment, not just prison. Others demanded harsher juvenile sentences for violent teens. Advocates pressed for better mental health screening in schools, while parenting groups warned of the dangers of keeping loaded guns within teens' reach. Meanwhile, Heath Smiley launched the Ashley Smiley Foundation, raising funds for grief counseling and gun safety locks in Mississippi homes. Carly Gregg's trial remains an example of teenage violence, mental health crises pushed to the brink, and a community grappling with how to protect its children, both victims and perpetrators.
Her screams were most likely stifled by her own suffocating lungs.
On Mother's Day, May 9th, 2021, 14-year-old Aiden Fucci lured his 13-year-old classmate, Tristan Bailey, to a trail in the Durbin Crossing neighborhood of St. Johns County, Florida. Tristan, a popular cheerleader, was last seen on surveillance video walking with Fucci just before dawn. Later that morning, her body was found in a wooded area, stabbed 114 times. Investigators traced bloody footprints and a missing knife tip to Fucci's home. Inside his room, they recovered a sheath matching the knife, and in the bathroom sink, what his mother admitted was an attempt to scrub justice from evidence. A subsequent confession revealed chilling premeditation. Fucci had told friends he wanted to kill someone by dragging them into the woods. The brutality shocked Florida and the nation. Parents grappled with how a 14-year-old could carry out such a callous killing. Schoolmates held vigils for Tristan, leaving flowers and tokens at Patriot Oaks Academy, her middle school. The community demanded answers and protection from hidden dangers among its youth. At Fucci's sentencing hearing in March 2023, cameras captured the moment Judge R. Lee Smith pronounced the mandatory life term. Fucci's eyes went wide, his mouth falling open in silent shock. For a heartbeat, he seemed frozen, hair falling into his face, before he slumped in his seat staring at the floor. Local reporters said no words were needed. His expression said it all. Tristan's mother, Stacy Bailey, spoke through tears. "My daughter trusted you. You destroyed her life." Each time she paused to collect herself, Fucci glanced up as if witnessing the human cost for the first time. The courtroom remained hushed, except for muffled sobs. When Fucci finally spoke, he whispered, "I'm sorry," barely audible. But any hope of leniency vanished when Tristan's father, Forrest Bailey, addressed the court. "You took my little girl. You must live with that every day." His words echoed long after the gavel fell. Under Florida law, Fucci faced life with review eligibility after 25 years, a term the judge said reflects the horror of 114 wounds. On March 24, 2023, Fucci was officially sentenced to life imprisonment. He is serving his term at Cross City Correctional Institution. 1 year later, his mother, Crystal Smith, pleaded no contest to evidence tampering, cleaning blood from his jeans, and was sentenced to 30 days in jail and 5 years of probation. Meanwhile, the Bailey family established the TB Strong Foundation, offering scholarships and self-defense workshops in Tristan's name, and successfully lobbied Florida to shield minors' crime scene photos from public release. Today, Tristan's memory lives on in annual TB Strong events, reminding the community of the bravery a 13-year-old showed in life and the justice a killer faced for a crime that stunned an entire state.
Was completely defenseless. That's a given. But there were other dynamics at work.
In March 2013, 16-year-old Dylan Shoemaker was left alone to babysit his girlfriend's 23-month-old son, Austin, in Springville, New York. Austin had been crying and fussy, and Dylan admitted later that he felt frustration build. Instead of calling for help, he lashed out. Neighbors heard loud bangs and hurried to the house, finding Austin unresponsive on the living room floor. He was rushed to a nearby hospital but died hours later. Doctors found severe head trauma, multiple skull fractures, and internal bleeding consistent with repeated blows. Autopsy reports described injuries far beyond what could happen in a simple fall. Police arrested Dylan at school the next day. He told officers he just snapped and claimed he didn't mean to kill the child. Investigators uncovered a recorded jail call in which Dylan bragged to his mother, "I'm a 16-year-old kid. You cry in front of the jury and they'll let you off." That recording surfaced at trial, revealing a chilling calculation beneath his earlier remorse. At Dylan's sentencing hearing before Judge William Baller, the courtroom was packed with family members, neighbors, and news crews. As the judge reviewed the charges, Dylan sat with his head bowed. When it came time for victim impact statements, Austin's grandmother, clutching a photo of the toddler, spoke through tears about the emptiness she felt without her only grandson. Dylan rose to speak. With tears running down his face, he turned toward the judge and said, "I give my life for Austin. I'd do anything to bring him back." His voice cracked as he spoke, shoulders shaking. Some in the gallery gasped. His plea sounded heartfelt, but others remembered the jail call. Judge Baller paused, looking down at Dylan. He said firmly, "Your words cannot erase what you did. Your actions show a dangerous anger you chose to unleash on an innocent child." When the judge sternly reminded Dylan of the jail recording brag, Dylan's face went pale. He sank into his chair, hands covering his eyes. The stark contrast between his pleading apology and his earlier boasts made the moment haunting. A young man torn between real grief and having once tried to manipulate sympathy. Judge Bowler sentenced Dylan Shoemaker to 25 years to life in prison, the maximum for second-degree murder under New York law. The judge said he wanted to send a clear message. No child should ever face such violence at the hands of a caregiver. Outside the courthouse, Austin's family spoke of heartbreak and relief. His aunt held a small teddy bear and said, "We can't bring Austin back, but we knew he needed justice." The family started the Austin's Angels Foundation to raise awareness about safe caregiving and to train neighbors in spotting signs of child abuse. Springville schools added workshops on anger management and stress for teens given caregiving roles. Local shelters began offering emergency babysitting for overwhelmed young caregivers. Child safety advocates pointed to Dylan's case as proof that even a moment of uncontrolled rage can have lifelong consequences for victims, families, and perpetrators. Inside the prison system, Dylan entered a program for habitual offenders under 18 with mental health counseling and anger management classes. He will not be eligible for parole until he serves at least 25 years, making him almost 42 before he can ask a board to review his case. The community still whispers of that day in 2013 when a teen's anger ended a toddler's life and changed countless futures forever. Days after turning 18, in June 2006, Dexter Darnell Johnson joined 4 friends on a violent crime spree in Harris County, Texas. The group carjacked Maria Aparice and 17-year-old Hui Ngo at a gas station. They ordered the pair into the back seat, drove them to a remote spot, and robbed them. One victim was forced out of the car and stabbed to death. The others were marched into nearby woods where both Maria and Hai were shot in the head. Investigators later found their bodies hidden under brush. Evidence linked Johnson to the murders. Shell casings matched his handgun, and his DNA was on a bloody cloth. Surveillance video from the gas station captured the group's getaway car. When police arrested him, Johnson showed no visible remorse. He told detectives, "I needed the cash, and if they tried to fight back, I had to do what I did." At Johnson's 2007 sentencing hearing, the packed courtroom fell silent as Judge Denise Collins read the charge: capital murder, punishable by death. When the judge pronounced the death penalty, Johnson erupted. He shouted a string of curses, slammed his fists on the defense table, and screamed, "I'm not going to die." Court officers quickly moved to restrain him as the gallery gasped. Security camera footage captured the chaos. Johnson's face red with rage, lawyers stepping back, and stunned family members in the audience. One of the victim's relatives cried out, "That's all I needed to see," as if Johnson's outburst confirmed his guilt beyond the verdict. The judge paused sentencing for a moment, then ordered Johnson removed. The remainder of the hearing continued without him, the gavel's knock echoing through the empty room. Outside, reporters called it pandemonium in court, and the clip spread across news stations. Some legal experts said Johnson's reaction made a death sentence inevitable, proving he lacked remorse. Others argued his explosive response was a sign of fear, not defiance, a final raw moment before facing the ultimate punishment. Convicted of capital murder, Johnson received a death sentence in 2007. He was sent to the Polinsky Unit, Texas's death row facility. In November 2018, 3 days before a scheduled execution, a federal judge granted a stay to review claims of ineffective counsel, arguing his lawyers failed to present key evidence of his troubled childhood. 4 months later, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals granted a second stay to examine questions about Johnson's intellectual capacity and whether executing him would violate the Eighth Amendment's ban on cruel punishment. His attorneys say he has an IQ under 75 and major learning disabilities. Prosecutors call those claims desperate delays. Over a decade after his conviction, Johnson remains on death row, continuing appeals through state and federal courts. Victims' families have spoken at hearings, sometimes arguing for execution, other times urging mercy in light of his age at the time of the crime. The case highlights the tension between harsh justice for brutal crimes and legal protections for those with mental disability claims. As of today, Dexter Johnson's execution date remains unset. His saga serves as an example of a teenager whose first adult steps led to the electric chair, but whose legal battle over mind and guilt may be his longest sentence of all. On July 6, 2012, 16-year-old Rachel Schoaf and her 15-year-old friend, Shelia Eddy, lured their classmate Skylar Neese to a quiet stretch of road near Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Skylar, who had known the two girls since middle school, agreed to go with them on a late-night walk. Instead of letting her turn back, Rachel and Sheila drew kitchen knives and stabbed Skylar repeatedly, leaving her body hidden under leaves. Detectives later found Skylar's backpack and phone at Rachel's home, along with bloody clothing in a trash bag. Investigators traced calls and texts, showing Rachel plotting the attack days earlier, exactly when and where to meet. In interviews, Rachel admitted feeling jealous of Skylar's close friendship with other girls and claimed she wanted to teach her a lesson. The brutality shocked a community unused to such violence among teens. School teachers, neighbors, and family members struggled to understand how two classmates could carry out such a plan. Sheriff's deputies called it one of the coldest, most calculated killings they had seen. News crews camped outside Rachel's home as police followed every lead, and a candlelight vigil for Skylar filled the town square the night before the arrests. When Rachel stood before Judge John M. Drees in February 2014, the packed courtroom fell silent as prosecutors recounted each stab wound and replayed a jail call in which Rachel admitted her plan. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. When it was her turn to speak, she rose slowly, her voice trembling. "I take complete responsibility for what I did. I am so sorry to Skylar's family and to everyone I hurt." Her apology was sincere and raw, and she covered her face with her hands as sobs racked her frame. During victim impact statements, Skylar's mother described the empty place in her home where her daughter's laughter once echoed. Rachel watched through red-rimmed eyes as Skylar's father spoke of holding a bouquet at her grave, promising to keep her memory alive. Every time a family member paused to cry, Rachel bowed her head, letting her tears flow freely. The judge noted her contrition, but warned that remorse alone could not undo the crime. The contrast between her genuine sorrow and the deadly planning that led to Skylar's death made the moment heartrending for all who watched. Rachel accepted a plea deal for second-degree murder in exchange for avoiding a possible life without parole sentence. On March 7, 2014, Judge Dries sentenced her to 30 years in prison with eligibility for parole after 10 years served. As the judge pronounced the term, Rachel stood quietly, her posture straight but her shoulders trembling. Outside the courtroom, Skylar's family said the sentence offered some justice but could never fill the void left by her loss. In May 2023, after serving 10 years, Rachel applied for parole. In a hearing filled with media and family members, she again apologized, told of her efforts at counseling, and said she had grown through faith and study in prison. Still, the parole board denied her release, citing the crime's brutality and community safety concerns. A second bid in July 2024 likewise failed, with officials noting that many locals still fear the risk she might reoffend. Skylar's family founded the Skylar Neese Foundation to support teen mental health programs and anti-bullying efforts in Pennsylvania schools. Rachel's case has become a story of jealousy, and a deadly plan can destroy lives in seconds, and how remorse, even when heartfelt, must be weighed against public safety. In December 2018, 19-year-old Damon Kemp lived with two friends, Trey Ingram and Jordan Patton, in a small Daytona Beach apartment. Late one night, an argument over rent and shared bills turned violent. Witnesses heard loud footsteps and a single gunshot. When police entered the unit, they found Trey and Jordan lying at the foot of the bed, each shot once in the chest. Damon was still holding the gun. Neighbors told detectives they often heard shouting from the apartment but assumed it was just rowdy roommates. Security camera footage from outside the building captured Damon pacing before the shooting, clutching a small handgun he was not licensed to carry. No robbery took place. Damon did not take their wallets or phones, which led investigators to believe anger alone motivated the attack. He later admitted during questioning that he snapped after Trey accused him of stealing money, and Jordan laughed at him. At Damon's first court appearance, Judge Craig Capri asked if Damon understood the charges. Damon, pale and shaking, screamed, "God, God, God," over and over. His voice echoed through the courtroom. Bailiffs struggled to calm him as Trey and Jordan's families gasped and leaned forward. Judge Capri ordered a brief recess and examined Damon's mental state. When proceedings resumed, Damon sat quietly in a wheelchair, eyes hollow. Trey's sister spoke in a quavering voice. "He took my brother for no reason," before she broke into tears. Jordan's mother, clutching a photo of her son, said, "I will never see him again because you lost control." Damon stared at the floor, tears streaming down his cheeks. Then, as defense lawyers asked for a lowered bond, Damon suddenly locked eyes with the judge and screamed again. Judge Capri slammed his gavel, denied bond, and ordered Damon taken to a secure cell. The raw cries of "God" became a reminder that justice, once unleashed, leaves no room for mercy until guilt is proven. Damon's trial began in May 2023. He was found guilty of 2 counts of second-degree murder and home invasion with assault. On August 15, 2023, Judge Capri sentenced him to 3 consecutive life terms. Damon remained expressionless as the judge spoke. Each life lost today demands its sentence. The harsh ruling stirred debate over how to handle violent teens in court. Some argued that at 19, Damon should face adult punishment without leniency. Others pointed to his breakdown and questioned his mental health when the bond was denied. Florida's juvenile justice advocates held rallies calling for separate treatment of young adults under 21. Trey and Jordan's families supported the life sentences. Outside, Trey's mother said, "No parole can bring them back, but it shows he can't hurt anyone else." Local safe housing groups launched workshops on conflict management, hoping to prevent roommate disputes from ending in tragedy. Damon's appeals are pending, with lawyers arguing that his bond hearing outbursts showed mental distress, requiring treatment, not punishment alone. The Daytona Beach community still reels from the night a friend turned killer, and Damon Kemp's fate serves as a warning. When anger and a gun meet in a young hand, the result can be a lifetime behind bars and a city forever changed. These 7 stories show just how deep the wounds of youth violence can run. Behind every life sentence, there are shattered families, haunted communities, and moments of raw emotion that echo long after the gavel falls. A court's decision may end one chapter, but the pain and questions it leaves behind can never be fully erased. Which courtroom moment shook you the most? Tears of remorse, cries of anger, or stunned silence? Let us know in the comments, and don't miss our next videos on teen crime and how the justice system responds.